Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hi everyone, this is Amleep Adil, and today I'm here again with a very special guest from Johannesburg, South Africa. He is a well known leadership consultant and co founder of IQ Leadership Institute, South Africa. He is a global value based leadership specialist and works with the transformation of communities, organizations, and countries as well. So let's meet together, John Robert. Hi, John. How are you?
Salam, Anlip, and yes, thank you very much for giving me this pleasure of being interviewed by you. I'm very well indeed, thank you. And yes, I look forward to this, and I hope your audience are also looking forward to this. So yes, it's exciting. Thank you for me being here.
So, before moving to ask a question, I would like to know you. I would like to invite you to introduce yourself so my viewers can know you very well.
Okay, yeah. Well, you've already done a wonderful job anyway, and I personally wouldn't add any more to it, but since you ask, I better tell them a little bit more. And I'm originally from the Netherlands, and then in the late 70s, our family emigrated to Scotland. So I say I'm a kilt-wearing Dutchman, and the last 9 years I've been mostly, as you said already, in Johannesburg, South Africa, where I live, and I'm also married to a South African lady, Dr. Arthie Moore Roberts. Some of you might already know her. And I used to be in the oil industry for 30 years, but I always knew that there was more for me to do. We've all got this voice to tell us that there is more for us, and most people ignore that, and then they never do anything more. But something happened that made me change my mind. I never hated my job, but just it was a case of if I don't change something now, I might never do it. So I quit my job, and then I started the Leadership Institute with my now wife. We became business partners first. I met her at John Maxwell Leadership Training in Orlando, in America, where I'd been an executive leader in the Maxwell Leadership team, as well as, and I'm also a Les Brown Platinum speaker. So those who know Les Brown, he's a phenomenal speaker. So I've had the pleasure of those two gentlemen guiding me along the way. And the Key Leadership Institute started because we had a vision. We started talking in Orlando about impacting millions of lives together. So that's how this started. And then I didn't know that my wife was already a very accomplished diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist for the last 25 years as well. So we've got a couple of training companies between us, and that's more than enough about me.
Very nice, very nice. It's really very good. So your wife is with you, and you both are working together. This is very nice. It's make strength. It's built more strength in people to work and to contact, to collaborate easily. I think it's a plus point that you are working with your wife. So my first question is, what inspired you to work in the field of leadership development?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, when we look at because I did a lot of studying in leadership before I even joined the Maxwell Leadership team in 2012, and for me, leadership has always been an interesting subject because even Les Brown said a long time ago, leadership is failing around the world due to lack of values. And then as I learned more about this, and I've read a lot of books on leadership as well, and watched all these wonderful TED Talks and stuff. And leadership is really about, first and foremost, we're all leaders. And we don't all lead in the same amount of time and the amount of people, but we all lead somewhere. And then the next thing is that leadership begins with self-leadership. So I've been involved in personal development since I was 17, and that's a few years ago. And so when I realized that, if you don't develop yourself every day, you will never become a good leader. And that's really when I started thinking, I said, so I'm already working in the field, because I do it every day. I used to travel around the world in the oil industry and take half my suitcase was full of books. Because before we even had iPads and all these wonderful instruments, and I still prefer real books. But then it inspired me. I thought, well, if I can, because I'm getting to know so much about it, it would be strange just to keep all that knowledge, because knowledge itself isn't power. Knowledge acted upon is powerful. So then I thought, okay, then if I can act upon that and help other people to grow themselves, to inspire them. I can't change people. People sometimes say, how do you change people? I says, hold on a minute. I says, I've got enough problems changing the person looking in the mirror every day. I says, but I can hope to inspire other people that they will motivate themselves to grow. And if you're going to be growing, you're going to be leading, because when you change, everything else around you changes. So the overall thing, and to see some wonderful people around the world, like Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King and Gandhi and all these kind of people who inspired me on the bigger stages, but also people at local level in the communities who stood up, especially in the last 4 years, who stood up and made a difference in the communities because they helped other people, they added value. And that's always attracted me, and that's why I'm inspired to do what I do.
So, can you tell us that what are the essential qualities of a great leader?
Ooh. Now, there's a good question, and it's a big one. Thank you. You've obviously done your homework. Yes, the qualities of a good leader. Well, another thing that sometimes confuses people, and John Maxwell wrote 120 plus books about leadership, and leadership is this big. And they talk about transformational leaders, authentic leaders, and all this kind of different leaders. But the first thing I think is, and John Maxwell says it, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And then people say, yeah, but how do you get influence over people? I say, well, that's already the wrong question. It's how do you get influence with people? Because if you have influence over people, that makes you a boss. That doesn't make you a leader. And many people think they are leaders, but that's all they are, bosses. So the way you do that is by building relationships. If you can't build the relationships, you'll never become a leader. The only person you really can lead then is yourself. And that might be a struggle. So building relationships is the ability to build relationships. And with that come a few other qualities straight away. Because how do you do that? Is you need the ability to ask better questions. And the next part of that is, so that's another quality, is how do you ask better questions? We need to learn to listen better. So that's already 3 parts of it. And when you look at that, then coaching is a good quality for a leader to have, and a necessary quality for a good leader. So people say you can become a great coach without becoming a good leader, but you will never become a great leader without becoming a good coach. But what is coaching? Coaching is all about asking better questions and listening better, real coaching. So that now it makes sense that you need to become a coach, because listening, asking questions, and building relationships, those are some of the soft skills, of course. Of course, you need to, as a leader, you also need to make decisions. And even that, people say, so I need to be really decisive. Well, it would certainly help. But because of the different personalities, people also lead differently. Like I am also a disc behavior analysis consultant, and there is 4 main personalities. So every personality has got different leaders. Some leaders lead from the front, some from the middle, some from the back, and some from the side. But they still lead, but in a totally different way. So I really think that your ability to communicate and connect with people is the most important one. And then humility is also a very important one. You need to be humble. And also when a team wins, give the credit to the team, not take the credit yourself. All these kind of things, they all add up. So and there is so many of these kind of things. And something else to think of right now is that you need to be willing to, as John Maxwell says, walk slowly through the crowd. That means, you need to, some people say, yeah, but I ask questions every day. Yeah, but when you ask questions, you ask, did you do the work yet? And remember, have you finished what you need to do yet? And how is your project coming on? No, when you build relationships on asking about them. Where, how do you, if you hear something about a family member, I heard your son was in hospital. How is he getting on? And I heard one of your family members wasn't well. Can we do anything for you? That is where the relationships are built, not asking about work all the time. And then one very powerful part of leadership is building a foundation of values. You also said I'm a values-based leadership specialist, and wonderfully, there is also one specialist in Pakistan, which we work with quite often, as a values-based leadership specialist. But sometimes people hear values and they hear leadership and they say, that's not for me. But I said we're all leaders. So what kind of values am I talking about? Well, values that we need to live by. That's not nice values that if you walk into a big corporate that they hang on the wall. No, these are values that you need to take off the walls and put in your heart and the minds of people. So these are simple, basic human values like listening, connecting, forgiveness, restraint, boundaries, respect, hope, developing yourself, developing people. These are all basic things that we should all know about: integrity, transparency, honesty. But we need to be able to understand those values at the same levels. And that's where values-based leadership comes in, because our ability to grow as a leader depends on the ability to grow ourselves every single day. So another thing is that every day we need to work on our personal development. And I would even throw in there, I talk all this about self-care as well, and I've also written a book about it that's about to come out. We need to look after our health and well-being as well, because when I mention self-care, people think, oh, eating, sleeping, and exercising. No, there is so much. That's basics, but there's so much more, like mindfulness, your attitude, your behavior, all those kind of things make a difference. But we always, every day, we need to make a decision that we're going to look after our health and well-being, because it doesn't matter how big a leader we want to be or how big a leader we are. If we are ill or we die, we're no good to anybody. So we need to make sure that, I mentioned a lot, and there's a lot more, but those are some of the things that, as you asked the question, already come out for me very quickly.
It's very good. You explain very in too much detail, with too much detail, and it's clear my concept that the leader is actually the person who leads the nation and who can change and who can reform the country or anywhere a leader existing. So that's very good, and it's really very informative that what is a leader, and I think my viewers also can know so much. So my next question is, what are some key challenges you faced while you working with leaders, and how did you address?
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Again. Yes, leaders have challenges too. People have challenges, and we're all leaders. So when we look at leadership as in organizations and maybe even countries, there is something that happens, when you're looking at C-level and above. So managers, senior managers, directors, board members, CEOs, CFOs, all these kind of people with 3 letters and all that kind of stuff. In the UK, a couple of years ago, I got a report, and it says that more than 50% of company leaders are on antidepressants. Now, that's depressing all by itself, but there is a reason for that. And one of the reasons, and one of the main challenges that come up quite often is organizations have challenges. That is clear. And they know that they've got challenges, but a lot of the time they don't know exactly what those challenges are. So then something happens. Leaders are going to look for answers. Now, it's very difficult to look for answers if you don't know what the challenges are. And then they invest. They say, oh, we need to invest in training. Okay, of course. But if you don't know what the challenges are, then you invest in training. That's probably wrong. But afterwards you complain or say that training didn't work. We still have the same challenges. So one of the big things is that they have challenges, that's for sure, but that they don't know. And that's one of the things I do quite often. We've got a leadership game, We actually played it. What is the day? Friday? Yeah, last Friday we played it with an engineering firm with 16 people in the leadership team. And what happens is we play a game, and it's not just to have fun, and it is fun as well. But the game actually through the cards that come out and through the conversations that happen, by the time we're done, the organization knows exactly what the challenges are. Now we can look for solutions. So we bring a report out and we tell them, this is what we heard, this is what you said, this is what we heard, these are the challenges you've got, and these are the solutions that you need. And it doesn't even matter whether you come to us. But one of the big things that often come out is communication. One of the biggest things is a lack of communication. And not only a lack of communication, and every country's got dialects, but here in South Africa, for example, there is 11 main languages. So English for most people is not the main language. And of course, the same for yourself. And I must compliment you on your English, because you said when we talked beforehand, you mentioned that you needed to be better at English before you would interview me, but your English is actually very good. It's better than my Pakistani, that's for sure. So communication is key in everything we do. And of course, when you think about it, how do you communicate better is by listening better. So we need to make sure that we ask better questions, especially if it's in a different language, because our world has become much smaller. I'm in Johannesburg and you're in Pakistan, and the world has become so much smaller that we need to make sure that we understand each other, because what we say is not necessarily what somebody else hears. So then we need to ask clarifying questions. And quite often it doesn't happen. We think, we told them what to do, and now they need to do it. And then the next meeting, why did you not do it? Or why that was wrong. Yeah, but this is what I understood. So with what I've said, do you clearly understand what is required for you to do? And then follow up as well. So how are you getting on? I know we said we need to have it finished next week. We're now 4 days in. Is there any help you need? Do you still understand? And that's both ways. We are so afraid that we don't want to speak up and say, well, I don't, especially in the boardroom. And everybody, when they walk out of a meeting, they start talking. Oh, they should have mentioned this. I should have said this. We should have, we could have, and we would have, but nobody does. And then things go wrong. So communication is key, but understanding the main problems that are actually there, and that's a variety. But as I said, most of it comes back to some form of communication. Nobody not understanding, not being able to explain well enough, and not listening well. I mean, I've been in meetings myself that should have been 15 minutes, and an hour and a half later, we're still talking about the same thing, because people are too busy trying to impress the boss, so they're not listening to what somebody else says. So we need to listen better so we can communicate better.
So it's all the game of understanding and collaboration. So it's very good. So could you elaborate what is the relationship between a leader and team, so the people can understand that what is the relation which is needed to for the bounding of or for the working in any area. So it will be good for people to know that what is the relation.
What is? I mean, what is where the problems at the moment are, because I think in a lot of organizations, and basically it should be the same as you said, that people in any organization, whether it's an NGO, whether it's in the school board, between teachers, whether it's in a government or even in an organization, anywhere we should be able. I mean, it's not army style that they say attention and everybody stands up and they listen, and that style should never happen, because that is not leadership either. That's a boss. But when you ask about the relationship between a leader and his team, it should be friendly, but not overly friendly. I mean, it sometimes happens that people can get on very friendly, but sometimes you still need to let people know who the leader is. But it should not be something that, okay, every now and then I need to put my foot down because I am the leader. No, a leader here in Africa, they've got umslagano. It's actually what they do in Africa, and it comes from an African leadership concept, is that normally in the communities, where there is a problem, they sit in a circle. And then when they sit in a circle, the leader doesn't tell people what needs to be done. He asks all the people what needs to be done. And it's a great example. So we ask and everybody talks, and then the leader talks. Now, that doesn't happen very often. So if you have a team and there is a problem, you need to be inclusive as a leader. That relationship needs to be inclusive because the team needs to know they matter. Because if the team matters, they will do more for you than if they are just told what to do and when to do it, because that's a boss again. See, the relationship between a leader and a team, there is actually, John Maxwell wrote a book about this, the 5 levels of leadership. And the first level is where people arrive. They now think they've arrived. They're a boss. They're a level 1 leader. Unfortunately, more than 70% of people never go any higher. And a boss is where people do what they're told because they have to do. And that's not a good relationship between a boss and we all have probably had a boss like this, that you need to tell. And then the boss gets frustrated when we do nothing for ourselves. No, but we're waiting for the next instruction because you want it done. So then when you move up to the next levels, every level higher up can only happen, and you take the other levels with you, can only happen if you build better relationships with the people you lead. So the relationship between the leader and the team has to be mutually respectful. I think that is the main thing. So that people cannot take advantage, that the leader can't take advantage of the people because he is the leader, because then you go back to the boss. And the people cannot take advantage because the boss seems very friendly. And no, again, there's people, I talked about it during the training, that there is leaders who say, I've got an open door policy. And I had it in the oil industry as well. Now, what does that mean? On its own, it's a very good thing. And I go and walk into the leader and says, how many people on a daily basis come into your door? He says, hardly anybody, sometimes one. I says, are you not, but you've got problems, yes. So why are people not coming to you? You've got an open door policy. And he doesn't know. I says, I know you. And behavior analysis is also part of me. I says, you've got an open door policy, but you don't have an open mind policy. That means that people wouldn't dare come into your door because as soon as they complain about something, because you see it as a complaint rather constructive information, then they know that their card is marked. They won't get promotion or whatever happens. So you need to be able to connect with people. The relationship should be respectful. There should be boundaries. There should be both sides, if something goes wrong, discuss openly. So when there is any problems, that there is no blame storming, that we don't do this, it's their fault. No, what could we have done better as a team? And the leader has to be inclusive of this. And if something really goes wrong, then the leader should take the blame. Because if the leader takes the blame, the people know that they can make a mistake and they can come to the leader to talk about these kind of things, because it's not okay. If I make a mistake, I might get fired. There's people that I know that work in companies that are scared to death about making a mistake because it might cost them their job. And that is not a way to live anywhere. And that is bad leadership. Because if you feel like that about your leader, then there is no real connection between your leader and a team. So the respect should be mutual. There should always be good and open communication and swift. And when I say swift, that if anything happened, the opportunity should be there to talk about it immediately. Not wait till next week's or next month's meeting. No, do this early so we can avoid any further problems. So that's just some of the things.
Yes, I understand very well that respect comes first, and must be boundaries. People know the boundaries between the leader and the team, so it will be more beneficial for the any organization or team or family or in the home as well. So the system can go smoothly. So as you know that I'm teaching in a school, and there we are learning leader in me as a subject to we teach the students as well, and teachers get training also. So I would like to know that how leadership skills are useful in the life of a common man.
of in the life of what? Sorry.
In the life of a common man.
Oh, common man. Yes. In my first thought is that it shouldn't be any different to anybody else. We should be, our value system should be the same, because that has nothing to do with the size of leader. First of all, leadership is not a title or a position. Leadership is a behavior. See, that needs to be clear, because some people think, now I've got a title or I've got a position, and then they act accordingly. No, it's a behavior. So that means the common man, as you said, also is a leader. And I think that you distinguish between leaders and the common man is just that they are really leaders at a lower level or at a different level, because sometimes we don't know what people do in their communities, for their families, for an NGO, for example. They might do all kinds of wonderful things, but first of all, I would say every person, because if we're all going to be leaders, and that's across the board, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, every person should have a foundation, or should build a foundation based on values. I'm very strong on that. And that is because if you don't, we've seen leadership failing around the world, and we've got plenty of examples, big, small, and different, about corruption, about lack of leadership. And I can talk, and I don't do politics, but I can certainly talk about a lot of those kind of cases. But for the common man, there might be a time that the person might be required to step into leadership. Then there's a saying that says, it is better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than have an opportunity and not be prepared. And I think the common man, as a leader, we all need to develop ourselves every single day. And that's it, because irregardless of how big a leader you see yourself, and that's a personal thing, there is I know this even through martial arts, we don't stand still in life. We go up or we go down. So my and leadership is always uphill, because it requires you to build yourself more. We always talk about the wonderful, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, what does that really mean? And that is for the common man the same. And you might have heard this before, that somebody had problems even in the family, and the recommendation was, start working on yourself. And all of a sudden they came back a few months later and they says, something, I started working on myself and everybody else around me changed. Now that is be the change you want to see in the world, because when you change yourself, so that means that for the common man and woman and child, we need to start working on ourselves every single day. And it doesn't need to be a lot. We need to have a personal development plan. We hear about it in corporate, PDPs. Well, a personal development plan is something that you, over the 7 days of the week, you do something every day to grow yourself. And that might be a 10-minute TED talk. That might be reading 30 pages of an inspirational book. I will just grab one. This is, to me, a wonderful book for self-development and leadership. I do masterminds on this as well. And it's the invaluable laws of growth. And it's actually all about personal development. And the first chapter starts about intentionality. So to really add to what we need to do it intentionally. And people say, okay, we've all had good intentions, haven't we? That we want to do things, and we might do them sometimes. But the difference between having good intentions and living an intentional life is that people with good intentions might do something good occasionally, but people who live an intentional life do something good continuously. So that's why it is the first chapter as well, and we need to take action. So we need to grow, we need to create a plan for ourselves and involve the family, because it's wonderful when you can take your family with you, and you might all have to do different things because one size doesn't fit all. So you might, I've seen where parents and 3 or 4 children, they've stuck their weekly plans on the wall. And then at nighttime, they have a conversation. How did you get on? Now, it's not to push people to say, oh, wait, you said you were going to do this. No. I do the same in coaching. You wanted to do this today and you didn't do it. How do you feel about that? That's the kind of conversation I have in coaching as well. I'm the coach. You decide, you set the plan. So I don't tell you, well, you should have done. He or she knows that they should have done. So we need to grow ourselves, but it's beautiful if we can grow ourselves and take our family, our community with us by talking about our personal development, but do something every day intentionally. So when you can do it in the evening or early in the morning, or maybe at the weekend, you set up, you plan for the week, and maybe eventually, and if it doesn't work, change it. But start doing some things every day for your self-care, for your personal growth. When you do that, when the opportunity comes that you need to step up in your leadership role, whether it's at work, in your community, in your family, you'll be ready.
Very well explained, and I hope my viewers also can understand that what the essential of your speaks that. So, could you share a memorable success story from your time at the institute?
For my time at
Institute.
for my time at the key leadership. Well, there's many, and they're memorable because, as I mentioned earlier, me and my wife both set out to impact lives. And I always say there is no money. You can't put a monetary value on this. But a friend of mine once said, make money while doing good. And there's nothing wrong with making money for anybody. We need it, as we haven't found that out by now. And I said, I would love to become a billionaire, because you can do a lot more good with money than without. Les Brown always says, money might not make you happy, but everybody should find out for themselves. So there is many memorable occasions, even the last few days, when we have 12 people in our training room, and the feedback that that things change in their lives. And it sometimes it's a one-on-one coaching, and sometimes it's in a group, and you hear people, it was 2 days, so they already went home and they implemented things. See, the joy in my life is not if we do a mastermind or if we do anything else, that we do the mastermind. The joy is in the results, because people take action intentionally. There's a word again. I've got another one here. It says change your world. And that talks into the values-based leadership. But we can change our world. And how do we change our world? And that's what is so exciting. And you said it must be wonderful. Earlier on, you said it must be wonderful to be able to work together as a team. And we both are the same. In fact, my wife is a much more powerful speaker than I am. She is actually writing a book, the Compassionate Leader of Influence, and she is compassion. So I always hope that if we speak on the same platform, I speak first, so then she can finish off. I don't want to go after her. But the joy, one of the joys is to work with my wife, to have the same kind of vision, and our vision grows all the time, to have the same kind of vision to impact lives, and then doing this together. We're in the training room together. And one of the things is in the values-based leadership program, and I'm not saying this lightly, and I would anybody in Pakistan, you can connect with us, but I would implore you to connect with Rafia Mudassir. She's at the moment the one and only specialist in Pakistan, and she's in the education sphere, and she's training and certifying facilitators in this process. But it is such a powerful and simple process, but I can tell you 100%, I've done this for 10 years. When you actively get involved in that process, it will change your life. And that's where the wonders lie. I've got so many stories, but when we see people, it's not about the fact that they start sometimes crying, men and women, how their lives are changing, but it's not, we're only messengers. It's not about us. It is not, as Les Brown always says, it is not to impress you, it's to impress upon you that you can do this. Because if I can do this, you can do this. You can make a difference in your life, and your life will change when you start making a change in other people's lives. That talks into, and I'll explain this. Years ago, I heard John Maxwell say, once you have tasted significance, success will never be enough. Now, I don't know about you, but I had no idea what the difference between success and significance was. And that's where it inspires me so much, because we went to Guatemala 10 years ago to start this John Maxwell asked for volunteers to come to Guatemala to help start the transformation of an entire country. Now, I'd never heard about that before, and I thought I need to be part of this. 150 of us went to Guatemala, a country of 14 million people. That's very small compared to the 200 million in Pakistan. But the average age was 20, so you can imagine the troubles that have been there. So they were Spanish speaking, so we had interpreters who were teenagers. But in 3 days, we trained 19,000 facilitators in this program. And that's the first time I ever came across it, the first time I'd ever been done on that scale. On the way home, I quit my job. I needed to work another year, but it touched me so deep in my heart. And then I realized that, and the slogan for the program is transformation begins in me. And that is be the change you want to see in the world and all those kind of things, but in a very simple sentence. And so to have seen significance, and I knew that I understood the difference then, because significance, success is when you do something for yourself, but significance is when you do things for others. And I know you as a teacher on Leap will know that, because you as a teacher is it's a calling. You do things you inspire young people to become the best self they can be. And to me, I always really admire and congratulate people in the teaching industry, because it is a very worthwhile and very necessary, because we need our youth. They're not our leaders of the future. They're already leading, but we need them to become the best leaders they can be. So the everything around them in their communities, in their countries, can be the best it can ever be for everybody around them. And so we talk about significance, but to see those things happening on a weekly basis when we run this roundtable process in the values, to go into a training room, to do a one-on-one coaching, and to know that people walk away and it made a difference in their life because they took action. So it's never about us, but it gives you such a warm feeling of significance. And I know that you have this too, to see that children are doing well, and they leave school and they become certain things in life and certain professions and all, and to know that you've been a tiny part of that journey in their life. You can't put money to it, but I mean, it is. I'm sure that you can talk about it for a long time as well. How much of an impact it makes in your lives, and that's what happens in our lives too. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Yes. The conclusion that I feel that actually the attitude and the behavior is called leadership. And it must be needed to act, and it's not just beneficial for myself or ourselves, but for the others as well, who are joining with us. So it's really wonderful experience for me, and I learn a lot today from you and from your knowledge. So with this note, I would like to thank you for giving me your precious time, and I have no words, because I know you are the person, which type of person, and you are so much busy. So it's really my luck that you give me the time. Thank you so much. Thank you, John.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to put these questions together and for us to get to know each other beforehand. Very unusual, as I said before we started, because some people just come and would like to interview, but we really got to know a little bit more about each other, which was wonderful, and we had voice messages and things like that as well. So I really thank you for giving me this pleasure and privilege, because I see it like that. It's a privilege for me to be able to talk into your audience, and I will share this on my social media as well. And we also need to thank, of course, our friend Mr. Rehan Alawala for connecting us. So thank you as well if you're listening, Rehan. Always a pleasure, and thank you for this too. And I wish everybody a wonderful rest of their day. But thank you very much. And you can always reach me. You look at Key Leadership, keyleadership.com, and the website. There's a lot of information there. But thank you very much, Anleep. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, I also thank for Sir Rehan that he acknowledged that I have that potential to talk to you or to learn from you. So Sir Rehan, thank you so much for this opportunity. That is for today. Soon we will back with a new guest. And till for the next time, goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Good. Allah Hafiz.
Bye bye.